Let me ask you something before we begin. What if you woke up tomorrow and realized you had spent most of your life chasing things that never truly mattered? What if the applause you worked for, the approval you begged for, the expectations you carried were never the point at all? I'm 103 years old now. I have watched people arrive into this world with fragile hope in their eyes, and I have watched them leave quietly, often with the same regret sitting heavily in their hearts. And the painful truth, most people learn the real lessons of life far too late. I didn't learn them at 30. I didn't learn them at 50. I didn't even fully understand them at 80. Life has a strange way of whispering truths to us over and over again. But when we're young, we're too busy proving ourselves to actually listen. For decades, I believed that success would finally make me feel worthy. I believed that if I worked hard enough, loved enough, sacrificed enough, then someday I would feel complete. But life doesn't reward exhaustion. It doesn't reward people who abandon themselves trying to be enough for everyone else. And here's the truth that took me nearly a century to understand. The greatest tragedy in life isn't failure. The greatest tragedy is living a life that looks successful on the outside while quietly feeling empty on the inside. I've seen wealthy people die lonely. I've seen powerful people crumble under the weight of their own image. And I've seen ordinary people live the most extraordinary lives simply because they had the courage to be real. If I could sit across from my younger self today, I would tell her something that might change everything. Because the first truth life teaches you, the one most people resist the longest, is this: you don't lose yourself all at once. You lose yourself slowly. Every time you choose approval over authenticity. Let me tell you something that took me nearly an entire lifetime to understand. People don't abandon themselves in one dramatic moment. It happens quietly, subtly, almost invisibly. It happens the first time you swallow your truth because you're afraid someone might not like it. It happens the first time you shrink your dreams so others won't feel uncomfortable. It happens the first time you say, "I'm fine," when your heart is quietly breaking. And before you realize it, you've built an entire life around being acceptable instead of being authentic. I spent decades studying courage, vulnerability, and shame. I thought I understood these things intellectually. I could explain them. I could teach them. I could even write about them. But knowing something and living it are two very different things. When I look back now at the people I've loved, the relationships I've had, the decisions I've made, I can see something very clearly. The moments that shaped my life were never the moments when I looked strong. They were the moments when I allowed myself to be deeply, painfully human. The truth is, vulnerability terrifies us. We are taught to believe that showing fear makes us weak, that asking for help makes us small, that admitting pain somehow lowers our value. So we build armor. We hide behind perfection. We hide behind achievement. We hide behind pretending everything is under control. But the cruel irony of life is the armor we wear to protect ourselves eventually becomes the prison that keeps us lonely. I have sat beside people in their final days, and I promise you, not one of them ever said, "I wish I had looked stronger." What they said, instead with tears in their eyes, was this: "I wish I had let people see who I really was." There is a quiet lie that follows us through most of our lives. It whispers to us when we are young. It drives our choices in our careers, our relationships, even our identity. The lie is simple and incredibly dangerous. Someday I'll finally be enough. We tell ourselves that once we achieve more, earn more, prove more, then the feeling of not being enough will finally disappear. So we run. We run toward success. We run toward approval. We run toward the version of ourselves we believe the world will accept. And the world rewards us for it. You get the job, you receive the praise, you build the reputation. From the outside, everything looks impressive. But inside, something still feels strangely incomplete. For years, I believed the answer was doing more, working harder, fixing every flaw. But at 103 years old, I can tell you something with absolute certainty. The feeling of not enough is not solved by achievement. because shame is not logical. It doesn't care about your accomplishments. Shame quietly tells you that who you are is flawed, and that if people really saw you, they might walk away. So you hide. You show the polished version of yourself, the successful version, the version that seems confident and capable, but hiding has a cost. The more perfect you appear, the more terrified you become of being truly known. And here's the heartbreaking truth I learned far too late. The world doesn't heal you when you prove your worth. The world begins to heal you the moment you stop trying to prove it. One of the hardest truths I learned in 103 years of living is this: most of us are not afraid of failure. We are afraid of being seen. We're afraid that if people truly saw our fears, our doubts, our imperfections, they might decide we are not worth loving. So we spend our lives performing. We perform competence, we perform happiness, we perform strength. But performing is exhausting. You wake up every day carrying the quiet pressure of maintaining an image that was never truly you. And the longer you perform, the more distant you feel from your own soul. For many years, I believed vulnerability was dangerous. I believed if I showed my weaknesses, the world would use them against me. But life slowly taught me something powerful. Vulnerability is not weakness. It is courage. Real courage is not standing on a stage pretending to be fearless. Real courage is sitting across from someone and saying, I'm scared, I'm struggling, I don't have everything figured out. That kind of honesty is terrifying, but it's also where real connection begins. Because connection doesn't grow from perfection. Connection grows from truth. When people feel seen, heard, and valued without judgment, something extraordinary happens between them. That energy is what gives relationships meaning and strength. But here's the painful lesson most people learn too late. If you spend your whole life hiding your real self, the world will only ever love the mask you created. And there is no loneliness deeper than being loved for someone you were never meant to be. There is something else that age reveals to you with brutal clarity. Most of us are terrified of disappointing people. So we spend years trying to be what everyone expects. The responsible one, the strong one, the successful one, the one who keeps everything together. We become experts at carrying emotional weight that was never meant to be ours. We say yes when our hearts are screaming no. We stay in conversations that drain us. We remain loyal to relationships that quietly break our spirit. And we tell ourselves we're doing the right thing. We call it kindness. We call it loyalty, we call it love. But sometimes, if we're honest, it's actually fear of rejection, fear of conflict, fear that if we stop pleasing everyone, we might end up alone. I've watched people live entire lives trapped inside this fear. They become so skilled at being everything for everyone else that they forget how to be themselves. And the heartbreaking part, the people they tried so hard to please often never even notice the sacrifice. When you are 103 years old, you begin to see something very clearly. Your life is not meant to be a performance. You were never meant to earn your worth through exhaustion. Real courage is not about being liked by everyone. Real courage is the moment you finally say, this is who I am. This is what I need. And I will no longer apologize for taking up space in my own life. Because the truth is, every time you abandon yourself to keep someone else comfortable, you slowly teach the world that your voice doesn't matter. Let me tell you something about regret. By the time you reach the end of a long life, regret becomes incredibly honest. It strips away every excuse you once believed. When people are young, they imagine regret will come from the big risks. They took the chances that didn't work out, the mistakes that everyone could see. But after living for more than a century, I've learned something very different. The deepest regrets are almost always about the risks we never took. Not the words we said, but the words we swallowed. Not the love we gave, but the love we were too afraid to express. Not the dreams we chased, but the dreams we quietly abandoned because they seemed impractical or unrealistic. Fear has a very persuasive voice when you're young. It tells you to be careful, to wait until the timing is perfect, to protect yourself from embarrassment or failure. And so we postpone the life we actually want to live. We say, maybe next year, or when things calm down, or when I'm more prepared. But life has a strange rhythm. Years begin to pass faster than you expect. The opportunities you assumed would always be there slowly disappear. And one day you wake up and realize something unsettling. You didn't run out of dreams, you ran out of time. I have spoken with people in their final days who had lived very safe lives. No major scandals, no dramatic failures. From the outside, everything looked stable and responsible. But inside them lived a quiet ache, because safety can sometimes become another form of prison. And the truth that took me decades to accept is this: a life built only around avoiding failure will eventually feel like a life that avoided living. There is a painful paradox about love that most of us only understand after we have been hurt by it. We spend our lives searching for people who will never leave us, who will always understand us, who will stay exactly the same. But people don't stay the same. Neither do we. And when you live long enough, you begin to realize something both heartbreaking and beautiful at the same time. Some people are meant to walk with us only for part of the journey. When I was younger, I believed every relationship that ended meant something had gone wrong. I believed love was supposed to last forever if you tried hard enough. So when someone drifted away, when a friendship faded, when a relationship ended, I carried the quiet weight of failure. I replayed conversations in my mind. I questioned my worth. I wondered what I could have done differently. But age brings a different kind of wisdom. Life is constantly moving. People grow. People change. People heal, or sometimes they don't. And sometimes the most loving thing we can do is allow someone to continue their journey without forcing them to stay in ours. Not every goodbye is a tragedy. Some goodbyes are simply life making space for the next chapter of who we are becoming. I know this truth now, but I wish I had understood it sooner, because holding on too tightly can slowly break your heart. You exhaust yourself trying to save relationships that were never meant to last forever. And the quiet lesson life eventually teaches you is this: love is not measured by how long someone stays. Sometimes love is measured by the courage to let go with gratitude instead of bitterness. There is another truth about life that took me decades to accept. Most of us spend an incredible amount of time worrying about what other people think of us. When we're young, their opinions feel enormous. We worry about how we look, how we sound, whether we appear successful, intelligent, impressive. We analyze conversations long after they end. Did I say the wrong thing? Did they misunderstand me? Do they respect me? It's exhausting, this constant performance of trying to be the right version of ourselves for everyone around us. And the strange thing is, we assume everyone else is watching us very closely. But after living for more than 100 years, I can tell you something that may surprise you. Most people are far too busy worrying about themselves to spend much time judging you. Think about it. The person you're afraid is criticizing you is probably lying awake at night worrying about their own mistakes. The person whose approval you desperately want is likely struggling with their own insecurities. We are all walking around carrying invisible battles, yet we still imprison ourselves inside the imagined opinions of others. I wish I had understood this earlier in life. I would have spoken more freely. I would have laughed louder. I would have taken more chances without obsessing over how it might look. Because when you reach the later years of life, something surprising happens. You slowly stop caring about the audience. And in that moment, something beautiful returns to you. Freedom. The freedom to be strange, the freedom to be imperfect, the freedom to live honestly instead of impressively. And once you taste that freedom, you realize something extraordinary. Most of the cages we lived in were never locked. Here's a truth few people want to face until it's unavoidable. Happiness is not something you chase. It's something you allow yourself to experience. For decades, I believed that happiness was on the other side of achievement. I thought it was hidden behind success, approval, and perfection. I thought if I worked hard enough, I would finally arrive at it. But life has a way of teaching you the opposite. Happiness isn't waiting at the finish line. It's not a reward for surviving all the hard days. It's not found in trophies or titles or accolades. It's in the small, ordinary, everyday moments we often ignore. A quiet sunrise, a laugh that surprises you, a hand held without words, the courage to forgive, even when it hurts, the choice to let someone in, even when you fear rejection. For 103 years, I watched people trade these moments for business, for perfection, for approval. And when they reached the end, they realized too late that what they were chasing never mattered as much as what they overlooked. The cruelest irony of life is that we often look for fulfillment in extraordinary things when the extraordinary has been in front of us all along. And here's the last secret I've learned. You don't need more time. You need presence. Be fully here. Be fully human. Love openly. Forgive quickly. And embrace your imperfections. Because presence, being truly awake in your own life, is the only thing that makes any of it matter. The world will not remember how perfect you were, but it will remember how fully you lived. Now, as I sit here at 103 years old, I want to leave you with the final truth about life, the one I wish I had understood decades ago. Your time is finite. Your heart is fragile. Your life is irreplaceable. Every moment you spend hiding, fearing, or chasing approval is a moment you can never get back. Every time you shrink yourself to fit someone else's expectations, you teach the world that your own voice doesn't matter. Every day you put off living fully is a day lost to a someday that may never arrive. The most courageous thing you can do is this: choose yourself. Choose to speak your truth, even when it shakes the room. Choose to love openly, even when it risks heartbreak. Choose to be vulnerable, even when it terrifies you. Choose to forgive yourself for your mistakes and embrace the messy, imperfect human you are. Life is not about perfection. It is not about wealth, fame, or achievement. It is about presence. It is about showing up fully, even when the world tells you to hide. It is about the moments you share, the love you give, the courage you muster, and the legacy of authenticity you leave behind. So listen closely, stop waiting, stop shrinking, stop postponing joy, stop fearing your own power, live boldly, love fiercely, be unapologetically yourself, because when you reach the end, whenever that may be, the only thing that will matter is this: you truly lived. And that, my dear friend, is the truth about life I learned too late. But you don't have to